Welcome to Age Friendly Cleveland. My name is Mary McNamara, and I'm the Director of Aging for the City of Cleveland. Across our country, we have what we call an aging network of services because no one division of government, hospital system, agency, or faith-based organization provides all of the services an older adult might want or need to age successfully. As examples, some older adults may need transportation or modifications to their home or home health care or resources to stay engaged after retirement. It is our hope with this Age Friendly Cleveland series that you might learn more about the resources right here in Cleveland. This next segment is about one of our trusted agencies or departments we work closely with every day to make Cleveland an age-friendly city.
Hello and welcome to Age Friendly Cleveland. I'm Dan Monroe. My guest today is Dr. Karen Cooper, Medical Director with the City of Cleveland. We're talking about a very interesting topic. We're talking about strokes, everything you need to know to help keep yourself a little bit safer. Dr. Cooper, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me here.
So you're the Medical Director with the City of Cleveland. What is that? What is your role? How do you help the Clevelanders?
Yeah. So as the medical director at CDPH, or the City of Cleveland, Department of Public Health, I pretty much oversee all the health-related components in the Division of Health. I also help with some of the medical health-related issues with the Division of Environment and Division of Air Quality. Really, we're very much focused on health promotion and disease prevention, and so it's about doing things that the citizens of the city really need, like fighting COVID. I mean, thankfully that's dying down a little bit. However, that really took all of our energy and resources to really make sure that we were protecting our residents and ensuring easy access to vaccination and information. In fighting COVID, there are other diseases that, we definitely need to keep working on. And so we have the opportunity to do that now, focus more, get back on track with some of those areas. So I'm really happy to be here, really happy to talk about stroke.
Well, doctor, first I'd like to know a bit about your background. When did you first start practicing medicine?
Oh my gosh, you're really taking me way back.
A loaded question there, I guess.
Yeah. So let's see, I graduated medical school in 1999, and then I finished my residency at University Hospitals in 2002, and then I started with urgent care, and then I went to the Cleveland Clinic, and I was there for most of my time, for at least 15 years. And there I was practicing obesity medicine associated with chronic disease care. At one point, just generally to everyone, and then the past 7 years, specifically around women's health.
Well, doctor, we're here today talking about strokes. What exactly is a stroke?
Yes, a stroke is known informally as a brain attack. Basically, it's when the blood flow to the brain through the arteries in the brain get blocked, either by a clot or by a fatty deposit, or by a vessel bursting. So if any of those things occur, then someone can experience signs and symptoms of a stroke.
Now, are there risk factors involved that may have someone more likely to have a stroke than other people?
Oh, definitely there are risk factors involved. So if you have hypertension, if you have diabetes, if you have high cholesterol, particularly LDL, which is the bad part of cholesterol, or if you have high triglycerides. So those things can predispose you more to having a stroke than other things. Also, if you're older, usually people who are 65 years and older have the highest risk of having a stroke, unfortunately.
That was my next question, but yeah, they have the highest risk, but a stroke can happen to anyone at any time?
It can happen to anyone at any time, yes.
Well, what are some of the signs that you might be having a stroke? How would you know, or how would someone recognize that?
Right. So there's an acronym that I like called FAST, yes. So F is for face, A is for arms, S is for stability or steadiness or speech, and T is for time. So basically, if someone's having a stroke, some of the signs and symptoms are, sudden. Basically, the symptoms are very sudden. So it's a sudden onset of weakness or numbness that could be in any part of the body, but you can see it in the face, especially if you are trying to determine if someone is having a stroke and you ask them to smile. It's usually asymmetrical. The symptoms tend to appear more on one side of the body than the other. So if you ask someone to smile and someone is having a stroke, you will see the unaffected side is still up and the affected side is down. So that's where the face part comes in. But you can have a sudden onset of weakness in the arms or legs, but particularly the arms, and usually it's also always one part of the body versus the other one that is feeling it more. Speech, your speech can get slurred, you can get confused, your balance, you can get off balance, so your steadiness can decrease. And then, time is really, really critical. If you recognize the signs and symptoms of a stroke, getting that person medical attention immediately is key in terms of their treatment and their recovery and how they rehabilitate after their stroke symptom.
A friend of mine years ago had a stroke, but he never realized it. He was on the job and he kept dropping things. He kept tripping. He kept falling and stumbling. And finally he said, get that checked out. And he went in and they said, it's a stroke.
Wow.
So sometimes you don't really see any facial or speech, but his balance was way off.
Exactly. And so it's not, we tend to think it's all those things together because, we're inundated with those, you need to look for this, you need to look for that, you need to look for that. But it could be any of those things or all of those things together. And it could be something so benign as you're saying, like, tripping or, stumbling or dropping things. And you think, oh, maybe I didn't get enough rest. When really this is the onset of a stroke. This is why it's very, very important to know your body, and when something doesn't feel right, to call your doctor.
What should someone do when they notice someone having some of these symptoms?
Call 911 immediately. And one of the reasons that's very critical is because the ambulance, the EMS techs, right? They can start doing medical care right away, even before the person gets to the hospital. They have, medications, and they have different things to support that person on the way to the emergency room. So it's really, really critical because with a stroke, you're losing oxygen to your brain, right? And all the nutrients that the blood vessels take. So it's really critical to make sure that person gets into medical hands as soon as possible.
Well, when you talk about the symptoms, it can be scary, like we said, because you might not see everything, but it's really easy to second guess what's happening to you. When in doubt, call 911, right?
Yes, call 911. No one's gonna say you're a terrible person for, calling 911 when it wasn't so. Someone's showing signs and symptoms and you want to make sure that you are, helping that person as quickly as possible. Again, with stroke, time is of the essence.
Timing is key because the more you wait, the more damage could be done to your brain?
Exactly, because of the lack of oxygen.
How can life be like after a stroke? How can your life change after a stroke? Or sometimes does it, sometimes does it not? Or
So let me go first to the types of stroke. We have two types of stroke. One is the ischemic stroke, which is where a blood clot can block the flow of blood going to the brain. And the other is a hemorrhagic stroke, which is where the artery can burst and pressure can build up. But there's also another stroke, but it's not really called a stroke. It's called a transient ischemic attack. And that's because it's like a stroke. You can have all the signs and symptoms of a stroke. You cannot tell if someone is having what it's called a TIA or if they're having any of the other strokes. So it's very critical to get anyone with signs and symptoms of a stroke to the hospital right away. But with the TIA, that's a very quick recovery, right? So what happens is blood flow either slows down or stops for a very short period of time. And then the person recovers and they have no residual effects. However, if you do not follow up with your doctor for continued preventative care, you're likely to have a stroke within that year, and that would be a major one, either an ischemic stroke or hemorrhagic stroke. So a TIA is a warning that an impending big one is coming, and you just don't know when. Sometimes it's within 90 days, often it's within the year. So I brought it up just to say for the TIA, the recovery is very quick. You know, you go back to normal, there's no residual effects. However, with the other two types of stroke, you know, it depends. It depends on how quickly you got to the hospital. It depends on if you were a candidate for their medication that could break up the clots if you had that type of stroke. It depends on how quickly they took you to surgery, if they needed to take you to surgery. So time is really critical in terms of your recovery. But let's just say you did all that, you got there in time, they were able to help. Then what happens is that after your medical care and you're stabilized, you are sent to rehab to transition from having the stroke to your normal function at home. Because after a major stroke, what's going to happen is you're going to have residual effect. You may still be numb on one side of your body. You might be unable to talk or to walk or to have proper bowel function. And so while those things can be remedied, you need the support in the meantime to transition you from having a stroke to being at home.
Well, is there anything we can do right now to help prevent a stroke down the line?
Oh, yes. Prevention is key, always key. There's some things that we can't do. Your gender, you can't change that in terms of the risk for having strokes. And apparently women are higher at risk for having stroke than men, right? With your age, you can't fix that either. As you get older, your risk for getting stroke is higher. However, the things that we can, that are within our control, is making sure that you exercise regularly, that you have a healthy diet, that you do your annual physicals with your doctor. Everyone hates that, I know. But, you know, check your cholesterol, keeping the cholesterol, you know, within normal range, your blood sugar in normal range, making sure that, you know, you are as healthy as possible is your shield, I would say, for prevention.
Well, you know, you mentioned, doctor, it's so important if you don't have a doctor to get one, especially as you get older, so they can have your symptom, everything you're going through. They can have the whole list. They know your whole health history.
Yes, it's really important to have a doctor that you can go to regularly. And if you do not have one, we are very happy to help you at the Cleveland Department of Public Health find one, locate one for you, locate a home for you.
Dr. Cooper, thank you so much for being with me today. Great information. If people want more information about the Department of Public Health, where can they go?
Oh, they can go to our website at www.clevelandhealth.org, and they can tap into any of our departments and get more information.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh, thank you. And you're watching Age Friendly Cleveland. We'll be back right after this.
Stroke is a leading cause of disability in America.
And the number 5 cause of death.
But 80% of strokes are preventable.
And together with the American Heart Association and the American Stroke Association,
we have the power to end stroke.
Each of us can take simple steps to reduce our own risk.
Like exercising,
eating healthier,
and having your blood pressure checked regularly.
Together, we can end stroke.
Learn more at strokeassociation.org.
Welcome back to Age Friendly Cleveland. I'm Dan Monroe. My guest now is Mary McNamara, Director of the Cleveland Department of Aging. Mary, thank you so much for joining me.
Good to be here.
You know, in our last segment, we had Dr. Karen Cooper, who talked to us all about strokes, and we learned a lot about it. But you're here because you have a personal story where a stroke kind of, well, hit really close to home for you, didn't it?
Oh, Dan, you're right. And my mother's 87 years old, lives by herself, is independent, lives here in the Cleveland area. And a couple of weeks ago, she had a stroke. And this segment was really important to me because I think so many people don't know the symptoms and signs of a stroke. I didn't know them. At the time my mother had a stroke, she was with my brother. He's a former EMS worker for the city of Cleveland and now a Cleveland police officer. And so when her speech was off, when she couldn't name her 5 children, when she couldn't tell her story, he knew right away something was wrong. He asked her a few more questions, and he knew right away he needed to take her to the emergency room.
It's almost like she lost all her memory just like that. Couldn't remember how to talk or who people were.
You're right, she couldn't speak. And so if I would have been here with her, I'm not sure I would have known what that was a sign of, and she probably would have convinced me to take her home and she would have felt better laying down. But he knew that this was one of the significant symptoms of a stroke. He took her off to the emergency room, and within 90 minutes she got really critical medication in her. And I'm really grateful and happy to say today that she's 100% recovered at 87 years old. And I wanted to get this information out that Dr. Cooper shared to all of your viewers so that others may have the same story my mother had.
Well, that's fantastic for your mother. But so your brother took her to the ER. What do they do in there? You know, if they did, how do they diagnose that? Yes, this is indeed a stroke.
Well, I think what's really important is time is really critical. So there are some symptoms. You hear this phrase, be fast. You know, if a change in your balance, a change in your eyes and vision, a change in your facial, you hear about drooping face, a change in speech. Those are signs that you may be having a stroke. And the T in that of be fast stands for time. So it's really critical to get to the hospital as soon as possible. And so they quickly did tests on her. It was an all hands on effort in the emergency room. Thankfully, she was a candidate for a clot busting drug, something I learned about that day at the hospital. And that drug was able to clear all of the pathways that were blocked. And she had a recovery after several days in the ICU. And she now at 87 is very passionate about making sure all of her friends know about the symptoms of stroke.
That's so fantastic for your mother. But that was also a traumatic event that happened to her. How does she process what happened to her? Does she have any kind of support? Is she looking for someone to talk to? Or
Dan, that's a great question. In learning more about it, I did some research and I learned that there's a large number of stroke support groups out there. It might be at your local hospital system. It might be connected to the Stroke Club of Cleveland, because not everyone has the same outcome my mother had. I know many people, for them, the impact of it is life-changing. And so there does need to be a system of support available. So there's many resources out there. And so I think what I'd want viewers to know is that they could call the Cleveland Department of Aging, and we could help link them to something in their neighborhood. And so we're always a phone call away at 664-2833. And if you mention that's something you're interested in finding out more information about, we'll then do the research for you and give you a couple of options and let you choose.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy for your mother, and thank goodness for your brother being at the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
All right. Mary, thank you so much for joining me, telling your story. I do appreciate that. And thank you for watching Age Friendly Cleveland. I'm Dan Monroe. We'll see you next time. And you're watching TV 20. We are Cleveland.